Welcome, All Elite Wrestling fans, to episode 14 of the All Elite Podcast, our big go-home show before Double or Nothing. I'm your host, Andrew Kazir. This week, we're going to run down all the AEW news. Of course, everybody's heard about Adam Page versus Pac and how that match is no longer going to happen at Double or Nothing. We're going to talk about how they've confirmed when the AEW Championship is finally going to be on the line. We're going to talk about how Tony Khan had a nice little interview with UK comedian and actor Jack Whitehall, talking about the upcoming Double or Nothing event. And we'll also just talk about a couple other things that AEW has done to promote the upcoming show. This is obviously our go-home show. Everybody's really excited about the upcoming event. AJ, Phil, tell us how your week was.
My week, you know what? It's been stressful. I've been moving. It's kind of all coming to a head. But you know what? It's been elite because this is the All Elite week. This is Double or Nothing week. And on Saturday, the move's going to be over and I'm going to be watching Double or Nothing.
So AJ's finally done moving. Phil, what about you? Tell us some really depressing, sad shit to bring down the mood on this
Phil, what
great
terrible
week.
Thing is happening?
Tell us. What is
Everything is going great. Life is great. I'm having a great time, and things are great. That was how my week was.
See, Phil's had a great week. Everybody's had a great week. That shows us that All Elite week is all elite.
It's elite.
And me, I've just been working hard, getting prepared for this big show we got coming up. Me and AJ spent a lot of yesterday watching some All Elite shit, getting prepared for Double or Nothing. And with all that said, let's just jump right into the news. The biggest news coming out of this week is Adam Page versus Pac. That match is no longer going to happen on Double or Nothing. Instead, they sort of fast-tracked that match. They decided to have it at WrestleGate Pro in Nottingham, England. They did a nice little promotion for the match at the end of Being the Elite, which we'll obviously get to later on when we do that recap. But just the match itself was a really good match. It left us with a lot of questions, though. What did you guys think?
Again, like what you said, a lot of questions, especially how that match went. I love the match personally. I thought everything, the build up to it was great. But the fact that Pac cut a promo on him saying he's not going to be at Double or Nothing, I don't know, it made it feel more like an angle. But, I mean, clearly the match isn't happening, so there's more at play than that. I don't know, but damn, I really do want to see Page versus Pac all the more now. That's all I know.
The whole thing to me is confusing because it's being talked about like it's a real situation that happened, that they couldn't agree on a finish, so the whole match was scrapped. But from the things I read, the finish was going to be a DQ finish, which is the one we got on Tuesday. So I'm not really sure. Oh, and the winning streak is over. Pac is always talking about his 20-month winning streak. I'm pretty sure disqualification loss is a loss.
Not in Japan.
So I'm confused why it would have been called off.
I don't know.
If it was real and then do the exact same thing for a different company like 5 days before it actually was going to happen.
I feel like there was a problem, but it probably wasn't creative differences. Maybe it was a visa thing, but I guess we would have heard about that.
You've wanted it to be a visa thing this whole time. No. Well, the biggest thing about it all is Phil's a little bit confused in what he read. The actual situation was that Cody and everyone within AEW really didn't want the finish on the pay-per-view to be a disqualification finish. They didn't want
the for the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that was exactly it. They want their pay-per-views to have a stigma of being, we're going to have clean finishes. It's going to be just straight matches. There might be a draw or something, but they don't feel that they have enough time to run a time limit draw between these two guys. And I almost feel like this match was maybe the buffer match to set up, like maybe whoever won this match and whoever won the Omega Jericho match was going to be in the first ever championship match. And I think that would have led to maybe Pac versus Omega for the championship, and you don't want Pac going over Omega. And Pac's not going to lose his undefeated streak. And I think the way he's going to swing it is he still hasn't been pinned. He hasn't been pinned or submitted in the last 20 months or whatever. That's what it'll turn into, and he'll just sort of gloss over it. And, I mean, I really think that there is something to it. I think that Pac is someone who wrestling fans sort of give a pass to because he's such a great wrestler. But if you look at just his history, he was pushed pretty much like a big deal in WWE. For someone of his size and whatnot, he was pushed as a big deal. He led the whole cruiserweight division and shit, and he still left. And everyone was sort of okay with that because you wanted to see Pac pushed as a main eventer, which is understandable. He's got the talent for it and shit. But now this is the second instance of this guy sort of being like, no, you're not going to put me in the exact position I want, so I'm just going to walk.
And maybe it's just him overcorrecting, like he's treating it like it is WWE when it's a different company. But you're right, it really doesn't look good for him as a person, like as far as the wrestling community is looking at him, I think.
Yeah,
and I only say that in a sense of, like, if he wasn't willing to lose to Omega, I think that Pac would have been a better choice than Page in this match. I think you could still make Adam Page look really good and have him lose to Pac in the end, and then do Pac versus Omega, and you have Omega go over Pac, but still sort of do the same thing. You make Pac look good in the end, and you sort of have a build off of that. And I think if Pac wasn't willing to put over Omega, then that's where the problem really lies for me. It's all just so weird, though. I'm not even sure I necessarily want to see AEW work with Pac if this is the situation we're going to run into so early. I feel like a lot of these guys just being put on this stage should sort of be like, what's the plan? Am I going over? Am I not going over? Okay, cool. Like, you shouldn't really be politicking for a finish that you want to see on the first show or the first couple shows.
Yeah.
And good on AEW for establishing that, like, we're running this. You guys aren't going to decide this. So go have the match. Go do the DQ finish. Go do it. We're going to record it. We're going to still utilize it. But if this is how you're going to be, then we won't put it on our pay-per-view, and you can just go do what you want to do.
And that's fair.
Which is disappointing because we all obviously are big fans of Pac, and we really wanted to see him do well for this company and become a mainstay. But like Andrew said, it shouldn't be a problem this early. You shouldn't be politicking like day one. It doesn't really bode well for his future.
And I'm sure he's doing fine in Dragon Gate and indie bookings, and so I'm sure he doesn't care that much. But all in all, that's still, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see necessarily what AEW plans to do with Pac, but we have seen what their plans are for the AEW Championship going forward. They announced on this week's Road to Double or Nothing that the winner of Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega will face the winner of the Casino Battle Royal at a future date, and that will be our first official AEW Championship match. How do you guys feel about the way they've announced this and the way they've confirmed this championship matchup and how it will be decided, I guess?
You know what? I don't really have a strong feeling about this. Jericho and Omega, it's a good match for what they're doing. That's the right choice, but it feels weird that we're not getting a title match on the first show. And I think we talked about this, I think yesterday, that it really does feel weird not having a title match on their opening show. But I mean, I guess if this is how you're going to take this, then this is the way to do it, the Battle Royal and Jericho. I think it just makes me feel very much like Adam Page is definitely going to win the Battle Royal, which is disappointing to me.
I don't even think he's going to be there.
Really?
I think it's interesting that they didn't go the route to make Omega and Jericho the title match, because those are your biggest stars. Like, there is no better title match, really, unless you want to, like, throw Cody Rhodes in there or something.
No.
But it's also compelling to me because when we look at the list of announced competitors for this Battle Royal, it's like the exact opposite. There's nobody that really screams like obvious winner. I mean, obviously, if Adam Page is going to be thrown in there, then he's going to win. Like, it's not even a question.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's compelling because your first title match will be a big star, no matter who wins, against somebody who isn't. It's like,
hopefully,
weird to have like such a lot, like on paper, like so lopsided of a favorite in your first title match, but like that could lead to interesting things depending on who wins.
It could lead to some push. It could definitely lead to some more interesting things, especially going into Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen. Because from what reports are going out is that this match the championship match will actually happen at All In 2, which is supposed to happen in Chicago at the end of August. Mm-hmm. So that gives them time to build up a potential contender. But man, you talk about risking a lot if you're just going to say, even if it's someone like MJF or Joey Janela who already has a little bit of a buzz for themselves, you're putting a lot of eggs in your basket to say, yeah, we can really make this match a big match. And I think there's a chance you could do it with someone like Janela, but they haven't even tried to push Janela at all throughout. And I think he would make more sense than someone like MJF, because how do you tell that story with MJF? He doesn't have that whole loose cannon vibe to him, where with Joey Janela, he's more of like a loose cannon bad boy. He could come out and beat down whoever wins the final match and bloody them all up, and that sort of leaves your compelling story. Then you put him over someone big on the next show. So there's a way to build up a contender for either Jericho or Omega. But I'm with Phil on a sense of I don't feel like any of these guys who are announced are ready. I also don't want to just see Adam Page thrown into that match and that be the finish, because I wanted to see that match as a way to elevate someone new or do something surprising. And I mean, I guess Adam Page would be a surprise, but I mean, you're expecting it.
It's a different.
But I do appreciate the way that they're sort of drawing it out. At first, I was frustrated. I wanted the original championship match to be on this first official show, and it is kind of weird in my mind to not just do Jericho Omega as a championship match and then go from there. But I think that leaves the opportunity that whoever wins, like say it's Omega against Janela, that still leaves the potential that Janela could win because it's the inaugural championship match. If it's Omega's first defense against Janela, I think you kind of just are deciding that Omega's going to win his first defense. If you know what I'm saying, like it's the inaugural championship, the first defense is probably not going to be a title change.
Yeah.
So you don't really, so it's kind of harder to promote that, and I get the business aspect of it and whatnot. So, and then speaking of business, we got Tony Khan talking a lot of business in his interview with Jack Whitehall. I thought this interview was pretty interesting. This was among the stuff that me and AJ had watched yesterday, just leading into Double or Nothing, and it was interesting. They talked about the UK pay-per-view that they could potentially be doing in the future. Tony Khan seems to have a lot of ties to the United Kingdom. They obviously have holds within the football community, soccer community over there. So obviously they want to do business in the UK. Tony Khan's obviously very interested in that. And then he also just discusses how he had really planned on this situation. He really worked on it. This wasn't something that was a short-sighted venture. It was more of a long-term based thing. And that's great as a fan because you know that this isn't something that's going to just fold in 6 months if they don't get the ratings that they're necessarily expecting. So I like that. And then they sort of closed out the biggest part of this interview for me was Tony Khan mentions that there's a big surprise he wants to tell Jack Whitehall, who's his close friend. He says there's a big surprise he wants to tell him, but they can't discuss it on camera. So who knows what that could be? I think, who knows? Maybe it's the Moxley thing.
Maybe. Or maybe it's CM Punk.
Give me a break. So, Phil, I know you didn't necessarily watch this interview, but what do you think about the potential of them doing a pay-per-view in the UK in the future?
I think it's an obvious move. UK has a good market for wrestling. There's always stuff going on in the UK. It just makes sense to do something like this. Like, where else internationally would you want to go first other than the UK? Like, yeah, you can take the jump to Japan, but, like, UK has a rabid fan base. There's a lot of people on the roster who have toured in the UK many times. So, logically, it just makes a ton of sense to do something.
I think you can make the argument that the European market is kind of more ready for a wrestling boom than America. Because they did have that. They had that with ICW in Progress and Revolution. And obviously, WWE kind of cornered that very quickly. But at the same time, bringing more wrestling and definitely an alternative wrestling to the UK, I think that's going to be huge. And I think it's also important to notice, like, the pay-per-view prices are down in the UK. It's going to be a lot easier to watch those shows than it would be for Americans.
Tony Khan had actually mentioned that previously, almost before he had started anything to do with AEW, before he had a company, before he had a roster, he had went and talked to ITV and sort of discussed a plan with them about how he was going to do this, how he was going to create this company. They were going to go and have a show in Vegas, and it was going to sell out, and he just told them everything that was going to happen. Didn't necessarily ask them to plan with him or to partner with him at that point. Just wait and see, and then he gave them everything he said was going to happen. So it's really cool to see Tony Khan be able to follow through with this and then start to build this relationship with ITV that is going to be super beneficial for AEW, because ITV is a bigger station in the UK than even what WWE currently runs within the UK.
Sky Sports, I think, right?
I think they just changed over in the UK, so I'm not totally sure. I can't speak confidently on that, but I do know that ITV is one of the bigger stations, and that AEW is lucky to be working this well and doing this well with ITV. And speaking of ITV, AEW partnered with ITV for a documentary going into Double or Nothing that they plan on showing, I believe, within the next few days on ITV Box Office, and we actually were able to watch it on ITV's YouTube page last night. Me and AJ tuned into that, and it was just a bunch of, at the beginning it was a bunch of old Double or Nothing stuff, just sort of the same build that we've seen. But the last half an hour or so was just a straight build of Jericho and Omega, sort of the UFC build type of thing that I've been requesting, where we went back and forth between Omega and Jericho, and they were talking,
promos,
and then they were
training.
working. Yeah, and what'd you think of it, AJ?
I liked it. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was really well produced. That's the other part. I thought it was really cool just to see Jericho, and Jericho's always good at like shit talking in a very natural environment. I always find that his promos, whenever he's doing things like an activity like training, always come off as more real. Kenny was Kenny, and Kenny also kind of gave the vibe, and I think Jericho did too, that like they're both underestimating each other going into the match, which is an interesting angle.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. They sort of spent a lot of time both talking about how they didn't think the other one was taking this match seriously, but each one was actually taking it totally serious. They were both doing what the other one said they probably weren't and stuff of that nature, and it was really interesting to just catch on that and see how they were really building to a big fight feel. And the only disappointing part about this was that they just hadn't put it out sooner and put it out in a way for more AEW fans to take notice of it, because it really doesn't have a lot of views on it currently, and the short time they put it out before the pay-per-view, they might condense it to 3 minutes and show a package during the pay-per-view, but it's definitely unfortunate that they weren't able to get this short documentary out to more people, just because the way they built that match,
Very well done.
It could feel even bigger if they had gotten that out. So,
well, we also got FCU. They did a little video this week on Being the Elite. It wasn't really a Being the Elite video. It was just Kaz taking out the SCU guys to some snowy cabin. Daniels is immediately just hating it. He hates the snow. He says he wants to go to his 24-hour fitness in Southern California. I thought that was fun. And then we kind of get two separate Rocky IV style video montages. They're all going like, are we doing Rocky IV? That's basically the crux of this. And then after they do all their little videos, Chris Daniels comes back from California, and they all missed each other, and they all start training together and do one big video. It was fun. I mean, this isn't something you have to watch. They just were trying to hype up the match with Strong Hearts a little. And we got Hearts on Fire playing, which makes me think the video is going to get copyright strike, but it's still up. And also, Chris Daniels, I think, injected himself with Monster Energy drink, but I got to imagine he didn't actually do that. But wow, that made me laugh a lot.
What do you think the health benefits are for injecting Monster Energy drink into your bloodstream directly?
I think you become a monster.
Damn, maybe that's the gimmick. They're about to turn Christopher Daniels into a monster version
gonna be
of
delirious.
Curry Man. He's gonna be like Monster Curry Man.
Delirious and Curry Man. Just mix them.
Yeah, I actually watched a little bit of this video. I had it sort of playing in the background and stuff while I was working on a couple things last night, and I really kind of enjoyed it. I liked the way they were trying to build up the match and stuff like that, and it was definitely a fun thing and a nice little comedic thing, and the way they sort of treated it like a movie almost, and these three guys work so well together and stuff that it didn't really feel too forced or anything, so that was great. It was a nice little extra Being the Elite thing, because they threw it up on the Being the Elite channel, but it just featured the SCU guys, so that was cool. It was smart of the SCU guys to utilize their time and what they have as far as technology and stuff like that to create this video, because you could tell that the Young Bucks, they don't have time to do everything for everyone, so the guys that are creating quality content and giving it to them, they're able to use it. So it's good on SCU for working with it too. And then just sort of speaking of Being the Elite, we'll jump right into our Being the Elite recap. This week we've got 2 episodes of Being the Elite running into Double or Nothing, so that's pretty awesome. And with our first episode, we got Being the Elite episode 152, which is called Upfront. They dropped this on Monday. And this episode started with the Young Bucks. They invited Brandon Cutler over for a couple of voiceovers, and instead they ended up giving him a contract for AEW. And this was just a really cool, humble moment where the Young Bucks were able to give back to a friend who we learned that I'm pretty sure Brandon Cutler's the guy behind at least taking the videos for being the elite. He probably does a little bit of editing and stuff. They gave him a lot of. They gave him a contract for like content creating as well. So it was really cool to see a guy get something out of all of his effort that he's given to his friends.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously that was coming. Brandon Cutler has been around so much, and we got him on Road 2, so it's not a big surprise he got the contract, but it was a really wholesome moment.
And in our next segment, we get Matt and Nick Jackson, and they're outside somewhere talking to Jungle Boy, and they ask him if he's even old enough to get into a casino before they finally get him to draw his card for the casino battle royale. And then we bend down and we see Luchasaurus was actually holding up Jungle Boy. So Matt and Nick Jackson decide to give Luchasaurus a card as well. So apparently you just have to be the fuck around when they have cards, and they'll just give you one.
I did like this segment. I just like Luchasaurus just because he's, I don't know, he looks really weird and he's funny, and I've seen him a few times, and every time it's always fun.
I liked this segment. I haven't really seen a lot of Jungle Boy, so I didn't really know what his thing was.
He's our banner on Twitter.
But,
Jungle Boy, he had an interview with Chris Jericho that I really liked, and his dad was a famous guy.
Yeah, I remember.
Damn, that's
remember
fucked up
dad.
that I said it like that.
The thing was, though, I didn't know if he actually spoke, and immediately I had a problem with it. I don't like it when characters can't speak because you really limit how well you can sell yourself and how well you can
It depends on the character,
build,
but I agree.
How well you can like build feuds if you can't speak. So I was glad to see the skit at the end where they're like, they talk and they're like, oh, you can talk? Oh, you can talk too? I thought it was nice. Fun. I liked the heckling that the Young Bucks were doing. I thought that was legitimately funny when they asked this young boy, can you even get into a casino? Can you even speak? Like, what the hell is your deal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know. I don't mind the way they just sort of introduced Luchasaurus in this and stuff. But my sort of gripe with it is like Phil said, he's not familiar with Jungle Boy. We're not really familiar with Luchasaurus. Why don't we use 10 minutes of being the elite and throw a qualifying match for the Casino Battle Royale on being the elite, and that's how we introduce people to guys that they've literally never seen. We have at least 200,000 people tuning in every week to being the elite. Let's give these people, even if it's just 5-minute highlights. We've done so many bum-ass highlights of the Young Bucks working out in gyms and stuff. You could have done, like, these guys are all working.
Yeah.
They're all working indie shows and shit, so, like, I don't know. I get that takes a little bit more thought and a little
I'm
bit
sure
more
there's
effort
legal
and
shit too now with the TNT. Well, I mean, there's like TNT involved, and they might have some clause in a contract with a bunch of weird old shit.
Well, even if you can't do qualifying matches, you can at least like put together a 3-minute video package on who the hell these people are and why we should care about them.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least.
Definitely.
I mean, we were all surprised when Luke Perry died that we really didn't get much Jungle Boy like interviews or anything, which makes sense. Obviously he was grieving, but I would expect that we would have learned more about him or on a road to or something.
Yeah, and that's sort of my issue with it. Like I said, the Jungle Boy interview that he did with Chris Jericho, it was really good, and it was really informative to me about who Jungle Boy was and sort of how he's come up in wrestling and shit. And I sort of had to go out and get that and go out and listen to that, and like that made me more interested in Jungle Boy and made me more of a fan of Jungle Boy, but not everyone has access to that. So utilize every platform to promote people in different ways, and it will benefit you more. And that was my only gripe with it. I do appreciate them throwing Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus into this match. I think they sort of add to it as far as people who need to get tossed out and shit, so it works. In our next segment, we get Christopher Daniels, and he's in Chile. And he's got some guy with him, and they're just doing the worst town gimmick, and it doesn't really work out for him. Christopher Daniels' buddy isn't too good at it, so I don't know.
Yeah, this is a nothing segment.
Exactly. And in our next segment, we have Fuego del Sol. He's someone I've actually never heard of, but he's telling off Sammy G, and he tells Sammy G that he's always talking shit about him on his vlog. He's always talking shit about Fuego del Sol's vlog, and it's just a vlog argument, apparently. But Sammy G says that he's trying to change. That's not the guy he is anymore. So, I don't know. We continue to build on the Sammy G thing, I guess.
Well, this was Sammy's face turn, right? After he won away, they went, that Sammy G guy is all right. So I guess he's a face now with the boys.
Yeah, I don't really know. It's interesting. I haven't really seen anything like this done before, where people are so compelled by if this guy's a good guy or bad guy. Like, definitely makes me care about Sammy G. It definitely makes me interested in his match because I'm pretty sure Kip Sabian is working as a face.
Yeah.
So, like...
I'm sure it's just going to be a match to get the crowd hot.
I think,
Or Sammy
but
G
there's
could
also
kill him at the
character
end.
implications, too, with Sammy G. I mean, like, is it just going to be, like, two people fighting to be the best, or is it going to be, like, good guy versus bad guy?
I would
think
say
it
it's
will-
Cody said that he's a heel, man. Cody said he's a heel at heart. So what if Sammy G just does like mad evil shit and then he comes out and still tries to be all buddy?
That would
and
be
friendly with
amazing,
people?
and that would be an amazing character, and that would...
And he'd be pretty
But
good
to
at
the
it.
point
Yeah.
of what you said, we were talking before about how wins and losses will matter in AEW. So it just being a match where they're competing, it does make sense.
I also have to put this in here. No offense to Fuego del Sol, but he is the worst looking luchador I have ever seen in my life.
Well, I don't
He
think he's a
looks
luchador.
like
I think he's just a
something-
dude with the mask.
He looks like something that I would have created when I was 5 years old.
I think he's a hood slam guy, but I don't remember that for sure.
He has a bad look. I
Well,
have no
speaking of
further
people acting like they're 5 years old, we get MJF acting like a 5-year-old as he's stalking Dustin Rhodes with a sword. He runs up on Dustin like he's going to kill him, apparently,
it was the
but
Master
instead he's
Sword.
caught.
Yeah, the
He's
Master
caught
Sword.
by Dustin, and MJF tells Dustin that he's a big fan of him. Dustin Rhodes tells MJF that there's a Zelda convention down the road and to leave him alone. So this was a fun little segment.
He was gonna kill him.
I love MJF and Cody, even though they had their little friction or whatever they did to
Whatever that
fuck it
was.
up in the beginning. Maybe we're just supposed to forget it. Maybe it'll come back and mean something.
I
Who the
don't
fuck
know.
knows? But as it continues and I push it to the back of my mind, I still love MJF and Cody. So
I love MJF. Like,
This was one of those segments that started out really cool, and I was really interested in seeing where it was going. Like, yo, is he going to hit him with the car? Is he going to, like, beat him down? And then as soon as the fucking
the
sword
Master
came out,
Sword.
I stopped caring.
He's Cody's buddy. He
because-
stole his sword.
Obviously, he isn't going to fucking...
Dude, he was gonna Game
He's
of
not going
Thrones
to
him.
kill Dustin Runnels on fucking
He was gonna cut him in
television.
half.
that would be nuts, though, wouldn't it?
So as soon as the fucking sword came out, I stopped caring. It could have been really cool.
He's not really
It-
gonna
it-
get killed.
It wasn't. It kind of plants the seed, like, maybe he'll be a part of the match. Maybe he'll try to help his boy, but the whole
I don't
sword
know. I
thing
liked
just
it. I
killed
thought
it
it was
for
fun.
me.
I thought
Yeah.
it was fun.
Yeah, but it could have been better.
No, it was fine.
Well, Phil wasn't a fan of this segment, but last week he was a huge fan of the Being the Elite mailbag, and this week we got it back again. In the first question, we got Nick Jackson. He's asked about championships and how many we can expect to see in AEW. Nick's a little vague about it, but he just says that they don't plan to have many. They want to keep prestige within their championships. So, I don't know. I think if we're going to choose questions for the mailbag and we literally get to pick which ones we're choosing, why don't we choose ones that we can just answer directly and give a absolute answer to instead of just being like, we don't know, but not a lot.
That is weird.
I thought this was fairly informative, just because, like, it wasn't something that I was thinking of, but it's probably smart. It's a smart idea to just
I
have,
agree.
like, 4 titles. Like, say, you have your tag titles, obviously, because we want to legitimize tag team wrestling again. Women's title, because obviously. You have the heavyweight title, because obviously. And then you probably have your, like, mid-card, lower
like an
tier
Intercontinental.
title. And that's it, really. Like, you don't need to have
That's
any
all
more
you
at
need.
this. At these, at
WWE
this,
is really oversaturated with them, and they just
Oh, yeah.
gave a new one the other day.
Yeah, the titles don't
The
really
24/7.
matter.
Yeah, it
They
really
change
doesn't.
often.
Imagine, like, how much do you care about the United States and Intercontinental title
I
in WWE
literally,
today?
with a gun to my head, could not tell you who either.
I
of
couldn't
those
either.
people- Who those champions are.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally wouldn't mind if they. It's tough within wrestling, you know, because within MMA it's super easy. You do have a lot of championships.
yeah,
and
because you have
such,
weight
but
classes.
You have your weight classes and shit, and it makes sense and whatnot. In wrestling, you could have a heavyweight and a light heavyweight weight class, but you're gonna want those two to bounce back and forth and shit. And
I mean,
that's-
New Japan does that.
Oh, bro, but even in UFC, there's too many fucking weight classes. It
Like,
blows
yeah,
my
you're not
mind
wrong,
when people like
but-
Joe Rogan say they want more weight classes. It's already confusing enough to know who's champion of what. Like, especially
Yeah,
if
but
you're
that's
like
more
a
so
casual.
due
I
to
think
like
the
a health reason. I
problem-
think in wrestling you can work it more where
You
you're
can.
doing like 20 or 30 pounds in between each weight, where you have your. But that it's just,
I mean,
it's
even,
tough because there's a lot of guys in like even in WWE. You think of Seth Rollins, he might be someone who could fit under that 205 live category if
Yeah.
he lost a little bit of weight. So that's where it's tough, where you got to flirt with those boundaries, I guess.
Yeah, but if they did decide to do belts by weight classes, it would give a reason to do these weigh-ins before the events.
Yeah, I
other
don't
than,
understand
like,
the weigh-ins at all.
other than having it just be like a glorified press conference with a
It
gimmick.
should just call it a press conference.
I agree.
But I don't know. I think you're definitely right. The weigh-ins would have a lot more of a purpose if they had weight classes and stuff for their championships. And like I said, I think it could be as simple as having just 2 weight classes, your heavyweight and your light heavyweight, and neither one of those necessarily sounds degrading. When you go with junior heavyweight, that's the weird thing. Junior to me is the weird thing.
It is.
Cruiserweight already has that connotation throughout wrestling as being less than throughout all of history of wrestling. So if you
It's a
introduce
weird
it as a
line.
light heavyweight championship, it might work out a little bit better. So we'd have to wait and see how they really plan on doing it. And just with Tony Khan's desire to make it more of a sports feel, I wouldn't be too surprised to see that. And the next question we get, Kenny Omega is asked if what he's nervous about. He says that he's not nervous about any matches, including his own. He's just nervous about any technical difficulties that we could see. During All In, we did see a couple of technical difficulties, so I could understand this fear for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a very rational fear. Like, wrestling companies in general on TV, technical difficulties are always the main problem whenever they first transition to either live or just being on TV. So it's always something where the production team, no matter how good they are, it's something they're going to have to get used to doing every week. And on pay-per-views, obviously, that's a different game, but it's still switching cameras at the right time, getting the audio working consistently, making sure everything's coming in clearly. And, we can make fun of Kevin Dunn all we want, but he's always done a really good job at actually switching cameras and getting things where they're supposed to be. Not always consistently, but pretty damn consistently.
Then our final question this week on the Being the Elite mailbag, Cody Rhodes is asked if we could potentially see a pay-per-view in the UK and if the UK would get a weekly TV series. And I guess this is just a question that a bunch of people seem to be confused about, and I think we're just going to continue to be confused about, because I thought they had said that ITV would have a weekly show. Cody in this answer says that you'd have to ask ITV if there will be a weekly show, but then throws a nice little wink in at the end. But he does say that there will probably be a UK pay-per-view in the future. And that's cool that it's just something that they continue to drive home, is that they're going to have a presence in the UK.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for their business. And I think it's probably inevitable that we get an ITV show, just whatever was on TNT, but we'll see.
And in our next segment, we get the Young Bucks, and they're at the airport, and they're headed to New York for the official upfronts at TNT. And we just get a bunch of clips from the Young Bucks and everyone else within All Elite Wrestling at the upfront. So it was cool to just continue to see them push this big event for AEW and get an inside view of it all.
Yeah, it's fun to see these super official things from their perspective.
There wasn't too much to this, but it was neat.
Yeah, it was more to set the tone for people who will never experience something like that as to what something like this feels like and sounds like and looks like in real time.
In our last segment on this episode of Being the Elite, Adam Page is back at home. He's drinking his drink before he opens up some fan mail and gets a VHS tape. He puts the VHS tape into his desk drawer, and then it plays on his computer, and I loved this. It was hilarious.
They did that with the card, too, with the CD, and then it popped up on his phone.
But I noticed it big time this time, and I loved it. And on the tape, we get Cody Rhodes telling Adam Page that basically Cody and the Young Bucks are the ones behind everything that Adam Page has been getting from Pac. It's not actually been from Pac, it's been from Cody and the Bucks the whole time. They've just been fucking with Page, and he basically puts Adam Page way over, tells him that he can do it, tells him that he's a fucking horse, and Adam Page is all pumped. He's full gear ready, he rips his shirt off, he gets his luggage, and he just storms out of the house, and that's the end of Being the Elite. And this leads to Adam Page's big match with Pac that we sort of already discussed. And like AJ said earlier, this match was just a really great match between Pac and Page. So I'm glad that AEW at least provided the match at the end of the day, and hopefully we'll see something build off of it in the future.
Yeah, and even on that episode, you got to see the crowd just on fire for him, and it was really just awesome to see. It got me way hyped. I set my alarm just to make sure I watched the match when it would be released on YouTube.
Congratulations to AJ for knowing where this angle was going like 2 weeks ago. No, neither me nor Andrew had seen the reference to whatever the fuck this was, Michael's special sauce or whatever. So AJ knew what it was going to be, and he called it, and he looks like a genius for basically being correct.
Big brain.
Big brain AJ, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know, man. It was cool. I like AJ. I was really pumped up after this match, and it's almost unfortunate that this wasn't how they were able to go into Double or Nothing. This would have been a great go-home finish to everything going into the first Double or Nothing show.
Yeah.
As you finish it with this, and maybe you even open Double or Nothing with the end of being the Elite, and then you open the show with that match. That would have been sick as fuck.
That really would have. They should have done that.
So it's tough that they weren't able to do that, but they did deliver, and so that was cool, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, the match was great.
And like we already said earlier, we were lucky enough to get 2 episodes of Being the Elite this week. We got episode 153 on Thursday, earlier today. We all were able to check that out. The episode 153 starts with the Young Bucks. They're outside talking to David Arquette. They don't really know who David Arquette is. They tell him that they don't have room for him on Double or Nothing, though. He keeps telling them, come on, man, you got to recognize me. And then finally they recognize him as a former WCW champion. They name drop Vince Russo, which he probably creamed his pants after hearing that. And then they say they can't get him on Double or Nothing, but they can book him for their party afterwards. And he asks what the party is. They say it's a super kick party. They give him a super kick, which was really nasty. I didn't enjoy either
right
of
on
these
the
super
chest.
kicks. But he sold it. He flew back, and we actually saw Johnny Impact in the background.
I didn't notice that.
He asks
I thought that's who that was.
David Arquette if he needs some ice, and he says that Arquette should have seen it coming because the super kick party is kind of their thing. And I tell you what, if they get Johnny Impact, he's someone pretty nice to have.
Oh yeah,
Double or Nothing.
Yo, yeah, that would be.
I'd
that
really
would
like to
just
see
make
him in the
sense.
Battle
I don't
Royal.
know what sense it would be to not have somebody like that who has like legitimate name recognition.
Is he contracted
be
with
part
Impact
of-
or?
I don't know why they would tease him because this is the second time they've teased him.
Yeah, and
Johnny
there's been
Elite.
rumors about it.
All I can say about this segment was I'm glad David Arquette was treated like the fucking geek that he is. Because if this had ended up with him being on the card or in the Battle Royal, I would have been very disappointed.
I was almost expecting this to turn into David Arquette versus Adam Page just because me and AJ just watched All In last night, and there was a
Stephen
celebrity
Amell.
match on All In. So I was like, man, are they really going to try and make Adam Page make David Arquette look good at Double or Nothing? And then they made it really clear that he wasn't going to be on, so I appreciated that. And like I said, I'm interested to see where this Johnny Impact thing goes. He's someone that could really add to AEW and potentially be a good competitor for. But I don't know, man.
Johnny Elite.
Impact versus Jericho feels like an episode of 2009 Raw.
A little bit.
So, a little bit, but I don't know. And then we get MJF, and he's back at the Rhodes house, and he's trying to give Pharaoh a brownie before Brandy catches him trying to feed her dog chocolate. Brandy's all pissed off at MJF for trying to kill Pharaoh, so she makes MJF eat the brownie before he spits it out when she walks away because of all the gluten. MJF is pretty good at just acting as a smarmy douchebag who doesn't want to deal with this, so I loved it. It was great.
I'm very surprised that MJF was just going to kill Pharaoh, though. It's pretty brutal.
It kind of hints at there's like some issues still between him and Cody. He's going to kill his fucking dog.
He just hates the dog, dude.
I don't know, man. Cody goes out of
his
his way to make merchandise for the dog, bring the dog out on the pay-per-view.
Oh, it's because the dog is more over.
Probably, but I thought MJF came out of this looking good. Brandy doesn't look good. I knew, ever since AJ pointed out that she always says fuck. Like, she can't ever, like...
We always say fuck every episode.
No, I'm just saying, like, her especially, she cannot form a sentence or, like, make a statement without saying fuck. And
especially when talking to MJF.
As soon
Yeah.
as she came
It's always
out,
MJF.
I was looking for it, and it was like right there. Like as soon as I started looking for it, bam, she threw it at me. Fuck.
This Brandy and MJF dynamic is definitely a little bit weird. And
It is.
like Phil pointed out, it's weird that MJF wants to kill Cody's dog. It's also weird that sometimes people watch Road to Double or Nothing, and sometimes people don't.
Yeah.
So Cody Rhodes apparently just doesn't watch this part or doesn't care that he tries to kill his dog. I don't know. That's the only part
There was
that they
that
gotta
part
be
where he had like,
consistent
you want the
on,
big
man.
juicy steak, and then he just tossed it out the fucking door.
But this time he literally tried to kill the dog. And I have to add that AJ spoke in our group chat after this episode was released, and he said that MJF killed the dog, and I really thought that that's the storyline they were going to run with, and I was compelled.
Yeah.
Keep that one in your back pocket, AEW, because if MJF kills Pharaoh, I'm all in.
just like
And
Pepper.
other people who are all in, Peter Avalon is all in. He's still all in on the librarian gimmick. He's talking to Joey Ryan, but he's a little worried about it right now. He's not sure if he's going to gel with Leva Bates as the librarian tag team the way that Joey did with the blonde girl. He confides in Joey a little bit more before he asks Joey what he should do, and Joey Ryan says, I don't know, I don't even work for AEW, which is the best thing I've heard Joey Ryan say, so let's hope they just keep it that way. Please don't try and make me think that this fucking guy is a main eventer.
The only thing that this segment served, the only purpose was to remind us that there are 2 librarians, in case we didn't know.
I hope they're not. I hope neither one of them, like, no offense to either librarian, but I hope neither one of them fills one of the last 4 spots in that battle royal.
They absolutely will.
They will.
Your guys are not wrong, but then that leaves us with 2 spots, and what's one? Joey Ryan, and the other one
Johnny
Johnny Impact. Nah, not Moxley, man. Impact. We just cracked the code. That's your battle royal, people. And then we get MJF for a second time on this episode, which no one can get mad about. Brandon Cutler's with MJF, and he's there to give him his card for the Casino Battle
this
Royale.
was brutal too, wasn't it?
Dude, MJF rips him apart. He
That was
tells
fucked.
Cutler all kinds of stuff. He shits on him about his wife and his kids, and then he goes to leave before Cutler finally gets a
Says
little
his
bit
wife
angry,
should've
and
had
he
an
cuts him off,
abortion.
and he says, dude, just...
Oh my god.
It's fucked up, dude. Yeah.
No, but like MJF has gone off the deep end.
Yeah.
MJF doesn't care, man. But he keeps going in on Cutler before Cutler stops him to give him his card again. MJF says, you know, man, chill out. My biggest issue with you is that you think that the Young Bucks are better than my mentor, Cody. And Cutler gets super pissed off about the Young Bucks thing. Like, apparently he doesn't care about his kids, but the Young Bucks is where he draws the line.
No fucking way.
So he
sir.
chokes MJF up against the wall and tells him to pick a card. So MJF does as he's told. And this definitely tells me that MJF isn't number 21 because of just his
Yeah, his
mediocre
disappointed reaction. We kind of speculated that he might be at number 21, but obviously not unless he's like playing poker.
Maybe.
I like the fact that Brandon Cutler stood up for himself, because if this segment had ended with him just like walking away and taking all that fucked up abuse, he would be so stupid. He would look so stupid.
He would. If he was just like, okay, bye bye. That would be really sad.
I'll let you pick a card later.
That would be more accurate to how he's been.
Yeah, it was nice to see Cutler at least stick up for himself a little bit and sort of get a more dominant feel to his character. Ever since we've been introduced to Brandon Cutler, he has never felt like a mean guy, which I guess could be a good thing. He might be like the male Bailey, if anything. Like, fans will just really attract to this happy, nice guy, but we'll have to wait and see. It was, like I said, just nice to see him have an aggressive side to himself where he sort of stuck up for himself. I like him, but not more than many people on this roster.
No, but I like him if he's going to be like in the mid card.
I like him to be a really good jobber. Somebody's got to lose every week, brother, and I like him if he does that. And then this week we got our second rendition of the Being the Elite mailbag. Our first question is for Kaz, and he's asked if he and Daniels are the voices of Arthur and Trevor. Kaz hints to this being because of Curryman and Suicide both being Kaz and Daniels in the past. He just talks about this alter ego shit for like 3 minutes and says that it hurts his feelings compared to this. And then just confirms that he's Trevor or Arthur and Daniels is the other one. It was just stupid.
There's always one fucking segment on Being the Elite where it goes way too long, unjustifiably long,
This is
And
your guys'
this was
segment,
this
too.
week.
You
I
love
like the mailbag, but I want more questions, not longer answers.
And it was a bum ass question.
It was.
An
Yeah,
answer,
you-
like
You were just saying earlier how you want questions that have definitive answers. At least the title question like had relevance to anything ever.
Yeah.
This was fucking a waste of my time.
and he didn't even answer it truthfully.
Nope.
Scumbag. Our next question is for Matt Jackson, and our next question is a little bit more important, I would say. Matt Jackson has asked if Being the Elite is still going to be around when AEW is on weekly TV. He says that he's just got to be honest and that he doesn't really know for sure, which goes right into my fact of I would like more definitive answers if we're going to answer questions. But it is sort of a definitive answer, or not a definitive answer,
Because
but
he
it's an answer
actually
for
doesn't
people.
know.
Because he actually doesn't know. They've got a lot more on their plate when that happens, or maybe not, or maybe they're just not able to with
It's a
the way
very wait and
contracts
see
are set
kind of
up.
thing.
So it's good for them to note on it, especially if they do have to end it in the future. They have sort of set the groundwork for that.
Yeah, I think it's a wise decision because it's just a little too carefree and casual for me once we start going on
Once we're on
primetime
TNT.
television. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if they kept the Road 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
That would be cool, but I think the Being the Elite stuff is just a little too much tongue-in-cheek, fun humor, and that they could still do something,
do a
but if they
podcast or
ended
something.
Being the Elite and sort of did something else, it would be a lot better than trying to change up Being the Elite entirely, because your fans aren't going to like that. Like the diehards who
Yeah.
do love every episode of Being the Elite and every joke and everything of that, they don't want to see Being the Elite transitioned into something that they weren't used to. And following the mailbag, we get a preview for a big StarCast event featuring Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks just talking about how AEW came together. This event will be hosted by Alex Marvez. And this is cool, just them promoting another StarCast event, and probably the only one where they'll really be doing all of this. So it'll be interesting. I might tune in and see what they have to say.
Yeah, I was gonna watch it. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it like as it happens, but I'll check it out.
And following that preview, we get Adam Page sitting at home with his knee bandaged from his attack by Pac in England. He says that it's his responsibility to tell the fans that he's not allowed to compete at Double or Nothing. He says that he's still going to be at StarCast, but he's not actually able to compete. So I'm sort of with AJ in the idea that I think he's probably going to turn up in the Battle Royale, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, obviously I don't know for sure. For all I know, he'll just be doing something else that we couldn't even possibly think of on the show. I hope whatever they do with him is good. I mean, obviously he's going to be on the show in some capacity, but whatever that is, my best guess is the Battle Royal.
I really hope he's not in the Battle Royal because that means we have an obvious winner.
I just don't know what else it would be.
I don't think he's even going to be there, bro. I really think that maybe if he's there, it'll be in a non-competitor's role. I really can't see, like, making such a big deal out of injuring his leg and then he
Didn't
just
they say
wrestles
they were
fine
going
on
to
it.
replace the opponent at first, and now he's not wrestling? So I feel like, I don't know, it's weird.
It's a bummer that they don't just have, like, unannounced match for him or something at Double or Nothing, or, like, a replacement match or
Then you
something.
get a surprise opponent, which would be cool.
And I do get that there's probably just not a whole lot available in that market, I guess, at this point. Like, who do you put in that match? I mean, I almost wouldn't mind seeing Adam Page versus Johnny Impact.
That's what I was
in
gonna
just a
say.
singles match. And that would be a good win for Adam Page in many ways and stuff like that. So,
And he's big enough where people would pop for him coming out.
yeah, I was just hoping that we would get something in that regard, and instead we just sort of get confirmation that he's either not going to wrestle on the show or he's going to turn up in the Battle Royal, and that'll be that. Maybe he'll win under a mask the same way that we ended the last pre-show Battle Royal.
They're not going to do that twice, are they? No.
He says he's not allowed to compete.
You're right. Luchasaurus, he's going to be Luchasaurus.
And speaking of luchas, we get Kaz and Christopher Daniels talking to the Lucha Brothers backstage. And they're just telling the Lucha Brothers that they're going to be paying attention to their match at Double or Nothing.
Oh, yeah, I
They
like this.
respect how big this match is going to be. They say that the Young Bucks have their hands full with the Lucha Brothers. And they also hint that maybe they could face the Lucha Brothers in the future. the Lucha Brothers say, of course, and they all shake hands. And then once Daniels and Kaz walk away, Pentagon asks Phoenix who those guys were. So
I really like the part where Daniels was just walking out. It might have been Kaz just going, by the way, this is still the worst town I've ever been in, or Mexico's the worst town I've ever been in. And he goes, same to you.
Yeah, this will probably set up a match in the future between these two teams.
That's inevitable, I think, and it'll be awesome, I'm sure. I guess they were doing it before. What promotion was that? Was that AAA?
Probably.
yeah, that would make sense. I could definitely see Kaz and Daniels doing some work down there. That would definitely be a really good match as well. Just seeing the Lucha Brothers compete with some of these other tag teams that the Young Bucks have had good matches with. Obviously, the Lucha Brothers can have a good match with the Young Bucks, and these other teams can have a good match with the Young Bucks. So you would expect that it'll be a great match with the Young Bucks and Kaz and Daniels or whoever else they happen to face.
Yeah.
And then sort of just continuing to promote that match, we get Matt Jackson receiving a text message just asking if he's really going to debut his new move. He responds C, and then we just get clips of the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in PWG. We get a couple of clips of the AEW press event, some other clips of them at an AAW event, and then the Young Bucks winning the AAA tag team titles in Mexico. And they just do a bunch of voiceovers from the Young Bucks talking about this match, sort of hyping it up. And it was weird because it seemed like a Young Bucks cheap version of a really cool, like, hype promo video for a UFC or WWE fight.
It was an iPhone hype video. That's
I appreciated the hype for this match.
I do have a theory. I have a theory about what the move is going to be now, based on the C, though maybe they've done something like this before. I feel like they're going to do Penta's package pile driver and do the 450 Meltzer driver with it.
I have some opinions on there being such an emphasis on a new move, meaning this move better end the match, or else what was the hype for? And if I'm thinking like that, then that means the Young Bucks win.
I mean, it could get broken up, the pin.
I guess so. But it's all for what? For near fall? I don't know.
I mean, the only people who really know about the new move are the people watching Being the Elite anyways.
Hopefully that's...
I think that they probably will win off of their new move, only if to build the idea that new moves are really big and powerful in AEW. So when Chris Jericho hits his new move on Kenny Omega, people are like, oh shit, he's about to lose. And then it's an even bigger pop when Omega kicks out or whatever.
I am excited about Jericho's new move on that note.
And that's where it almost pays off to show the move in some way. And I get if the Young Bucks can't really show it off or whatever, but Jericho's move we've now seen. We've seen.
I guess Jericho's move is a lot more basic than whatever the Bucks is going to be, though, for sure. I think Jericho needed to show his move because it's a back elbow, and because you see people doing back elbows in wrestling all the time, but they're obviously not getting knocked out from it. So maybe making that distinction is important for Jericho to say, this is a finisher.
Well, and that's the weird thing about how they're promoting this Young Bucks move is I almost feel like it's going to be a move that we've seen from them before so many times that when they break it out, you wouldn't have even known that it was a big deal.
That's really what I feel like exactly is going to happen.
Trying to promote it, so it'll just be like some move where you're like, oh, that was it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, you guys do all kinds of wacky shit.
800% you're right
that,
about
or
that.
It'll be like the one where they do the Meltzer driver from the inside of the ring to the outside of the ring. And that would make more sense.
Well, yeah,
why
that'll
it
get a
wouldn't
bigger
end in
reaction.
a pinfall. But then they should just all be dead.
Yeah, I mean they've done that before, though, right?
Yeah, but I feel like it's almost going to be a move that's just brought back from their repertoire that they don't do anymore because they're old men. But they finish up the segment and Being the Elite just running down all of their accolades before they build this match as who's the best tag team in the world? Is it going to be the Young Bucks? Is it going to be Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix? So good on the Young Bucks for utilizing their platform to treat the second best match in this show as it is, because on Double or Nothing or Road to Double or Nothing, we haven't really got much promotion from a lot of other matches besides the Cody Rhodes match and Dustin match and a little bit for every other match here and there, but the Young Bucks really utilized this time on this episode, and it was an extra episode to promote their match, so that was cool.
Yeah. After that, we went into Road to Double or Nothing. I I think we kicked that off with Brandy Rhodes, and she was at the pool. And initially, that really confused me because Brandy Rhodes, we had that scene before, right, at a different road too, where they were doing the photo shoot. I thought I was at the wrong video. I think you guys had the same issue.
Yes.
But
and the issue was like this episode of Being the Elite, they said it was going to drop at one time, and then it didn't drop at that time. It dropped later, and I was watching it, and I was like, did they really upload the wrong video?
Oh no.
So,
but yeah, the same thing. Penelope Ford went to get shots, and she told Britt Baker that she's her pick, just a repeat of that. But then she goes on and she FaceTimes Nyla Rose and does the same thing, and then we get the same thing with Kylie Rae. And so basically, she just tells all three of these women that you're going to win. We were talking about it before, how we weren't sure if like the terminology, because it kind of sounded like she was saying, "Hey, you're going to go over, brother." Which obviously now the case is that she's just trying to build confidence in with them. But after all that, she just looks right at the camera and she shrugs. I don't know. I thought this segment was fine. I don't think they really needed it, though. I feel like I kind of got the picture already.
Yeah, Brandy's obviously being sneaky and she can't be trusted.
Yeah.
And it was weird just the way they sort of went about it, I feel like. Just Brandy sort of telling all these women that she thinks they're going to win. Or whatever, like, what's the point? Doesn't Brandy already have someone who's going to help her with her match against Allie in the future? So why is she trying to get all of these women on her side, too? Like, does she really view Allie as that huge of a threat?
She addresses that later, but we'll get to it. But for now, we went on to see Jack Whitehall interviewing with Tony Khan. They just kind of do a bunch of clips from the interview we talked about earlier. It's a 15-minute interview if you want to watch it, but in this also we get interviews with Cody and Brandy Rhodes, so we don't actually have those full interviews, so this is all we get from that. Cody essentially says that AEW is going to be an alternative to WWE. We all know that, but he kind of shoots on WWE and throws some shade, just saying that it's a watered-down form of wrestling and there's a lot of demand for fans who want to see something with more action or with more blood. He also talks about his match with Dustin and how it's not really a brother versus brother match, but it's a generation versus generation. He says something that I think is controversial because he says he thinks, I think the exact quote was, let me see, I have it, I want to say it right. He said that he believes there's been 5 matches in the last 5 months that are better than anything from the Attitude Era, which is a pretty bold claim.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there that it's bold and a little bit controversial for him to really even believe that. I mean, it depends on how you're ranking matches, I guess. If you're just talking match quality and it doesn't matter if it's in front of 0 people or 10,000 people, then yeah, probably. But if we're talking about the reaction of the crowd as well,
yeah,
no,
like
sorry.
we were talking about like Brett versus Austin. You're talking about matches like Rock versus Austin, and you have I feel like that's. I don't think he believes that. I think he's saying that to build this
Even
match.
if he's right that you got to count in the matches that are happening on WWE's big pay-per-views then, and that's just because WWE is sort of starting to give those big matches because AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins, that was a really big match that just happened in the last 5 months. Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston, that was a really big match that happened in the last 5 months at WrestleMania. There's probably been a couple in New Japan. I know they've been talking about a Will Ospreay match.
We got the Super Juniors right now
in the Super Juniors Cup, so he's probably not wrong in the sense of like big matches and maybe even in the big field, but none of those have come from AEW. So what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't understand. I think that's just to build heat with the angle, and that makes sense. Of course, like the fact that we're saying what the fuck are you talking about? That's probably exactly what he wants.
Yeah, it would legitimize his claim if he could, like, name a match or two that he thinks. Like, if he's going to say, my match with fucking Magnus, whatever he's calling himself these
Nick
days,
Aldis.
I'm sure he's probably got... I'm sure that's on his list. I'm sure that's on his list.
And me and Andrew watched that match yesterday, and I definitely don't think it's better than anything from the
It just
Attitude Era.
It just had a good feel, but it wasn't
Yeah, it was a
bigger
great
than
match.
any match of the Attitude Era. No, that's for sure. And that's where that. I mean, I guess that's what he's going for. He wants it to be, and I get what he's trying to say, that now wrestling is more exciting, so those lapsed fans should be more intrigued in what's going on, even more so now.
There is a demand. I totally agree with that. And on that note, we also got like clips from Brandy, and Brandy said on note of big claims that Double or Nothing will be the best wrestling show of the entire year and maybe even the entire decade. Whitehall jokes about that with her. When does the decade start? But still, that's a big claim. Whitehall also confronts Brandy about telling everybody in the triple threat that they're going to win, which we were talking about. And her reasoning was that she wants them to do their best. And sometimes she feels like you have to tell everybody that they're going to win just to give them that little confidence boost to really put on their best performance, which would make sense if it wasn't clearly an angle, but I don't know.
That would be even stupider though. Like,
yeah, that would be stupider.
The way I look at it is it's really stupid right now because
it's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird that it's like when you have a joke and you have to explain the concept of the joke, it's not funny.
Yeah.
If you have to explain that you were putting confidence in them for us to know that you were trying to put confidence in them, then it was all
you clearly
fucking
did
dumb.
Not do that. I think really the bigger claim here though is saying that Double or Nothing could be the best show of the decade or even just the best show of the year.
Tony Khan said the same thing.
He did, and I get why they say that. Of course, that's something that they're gonna say.
Yeah, they
but,
have to say stuff like that.
Like, you're going up against a lot of shows this year. Like, we're gonna have
What's
the G1.
difficult for me is we just watched All In yesterday, and that had all the hype of being the best wrestling event ever. And it was just
it was an alright
pretty
show.
good show.
It was good.
It was a pretty good
fun.
show that had
I don't
way
think you
more
really
hype
need to
to
put
it
more
than-
pressure on these people who are performing here.
No.
Like, there's already enough. Like, this
Just
is the
say
launching
what
point of
you're
this company.
saying. It's an alternative, and it's
Yeah.
something different, and that should be enough. It doesn't have to be the greatest show in the world.
Because it's not the greatest show on paper.
No. And then after that, I think the interviews finished up, and we got Jack Whitehall, and he finally announced the contenders match, which I think we did talk about earlier. But obviously, one contender is going to be with the Casino Battle Royal, and the other, he announced Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega in the main event, and the winner of that will be the other contender. Up until this point, we've heard that the main event will be the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers, so this is some contradictory news, so I don't know how to feel about that.
I feel like that's more so because that's what, like, they're calling both matches a main event.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
WWE
and we've
does
seen
that.
Being the Elite almost, well, it's longer, that's for sure, but we've seen just more minutes of Being the Elite over the past couple months, and on Being the Elite, they're constantly talking about that match being the main event.
Yeah.
So I think that may be where we just sort of get more of the feel that that was going to be the main event. Jericho versus Kenny should be your main event, I think.
I
Yeah,
do
It
agree.
was, it was like a semi-main. For
I
just
understand
the
the
Wrestle
idea
Kingdom,
of wanting to put a tag team match on the main event for people who have never seen a tag team match that can deliver a main event status. But I feel like most people who are going to be watching the show have seen a match like that.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
really
you
you
gotta
should
build
be
to
doing
that, man.
Yeah, that too. And yeah, I get that there are titles on the line, and obviously Omega and Jericho is a contendership, but I feel like a contendership for the AEW title is kind of, I know it's messed up to say, but I think it's more important than the AAA tag team titles.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have to agree as well that just the contendership for their main championship should definitely mean more. And I think I think no matter who wins the Battle Royal, we're going to close the pay-per-view with a stare down between whoever wins, Jericho and Omega, and whoever wins the Battle Royal. So that should be really cool. That should be exciting. I like how they announced it. I like that we're going to sort of get a build to another big match in the future. We've almost got the stepping stones laid for it with a championship match.
Yeah.
All of that. So we'll have to wait and really see who wins the Casino Battle Royal. Like I said, I hope it's not just Adam Page, because like I really wanted that to be something to build someone new, someone that we maybe hadn't seen, or
I agree.
someone
like MJF
fresh
or
for
Joey
the
Janela.
independent scene or something. So who knows?
I'm
I'm glad they explained what's going on now, though. We don't have to speculate.
Yeah. The rest of Road 2 was basically just hype. Jack Whitehall teased the title, but he couldn't get out of the bag. And then we got a promo to watch buy-in. You can watch that on youtube.com/AllEliteWrestling. And that was it. That was all they did to close out the go-home show for the Road 2.
Yo, the 2 inches of the title that we saw, they look pretty good. Look like a real good looking belt.
It's not as big as
That's the
they made it
tease,
out to
man.
be, which makes me happy. I don't know. I feel like this was a good Road 2. It did the job for a go-home show. I feel like they probably could have done a little more with telling us. I mean, we've been saying it for every Road 2, but they could have done more with telling us about younger guys or more unknown guys we don't really know about. But we're 2 days out now, so I guess here we are. But what are your guys' thoughts on the show?
I just wish that they would have done more to sort of promote the Jericho and Omega match. Like, we saw the documentary, so we saw what they had. They could have used even just 2 minutes of that for this show.
What's wrong with making it longer?
Continue to build. Yeah, it would have helped continue to build that match. So that was pretty much my only gripe with that episode. And I had a lot of high hopes for both episodes of Being the Elite and then this episode of Road 2 with it being the go-home shows. I had a little bit more hope that we would get answers on the Adam Page situation.
Mm-hmm.
And while we did get answers, they weren't answers that I was really looking for.
They were not satisfying answers.
Yeah, but that's not really surprising because you kind of, if there's something going to happen there, then the element of surprise is really the way you want to go with it.
Yeah.
You don't want to,
I guess,
announce a surprise before you reveal the surprise because then that's just a thing. It's not a surprise.
And it is a few days before the show, which might make it more weird.
Yeah, so my only hope is that maybe we'll get a confrontation between him and someone at StarCast or something, which will lead to him getting a match on Double or Nothing. There's still a couple of days before that, so we never know what could happen. But that basically covers Road to Double or Nothing this week. That covers Being the Elite this week. And with Double or Nothing right around the corner, we're just going to do a couple of predictions, and we're going to go quick pick style. So first match, Casino Battle Royale. Who do you guys got? Phil?
MJF, Moxley, or Johnny Impact.
Damn, apparently we're choosing a bunch of people. AJ, who do you got in the Casino Battle Royale?
As far as people who are actually booked, I'll say Janela, and I think it's going to be Adam Page.
Oh, wait, I have one more pick.
Yeah.
The fucking Luchasaurus.
Oh, damn, Luchasaurus. I don't know.
Thanks.
If I'm trying to pick a couple of people, I would probably go with Joey Janela or Jungle Boy. I also wouldn't mind seeing Marco Stunt show up in the Casino Battle Royal, but he's not someone I want to see win. Then the next match, Kip Sabian versus Sammy Guevara. Who do you guys got?
I got Sammy.
Sammy G, or else all this hype is for nothing. Kip Sabian kind of looks like a guy who's going to be enhancement talent in the early part of the stuff.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm going to go opposite of you guys and say Kip Sabian wins. They shake hands, and Sammy Guevara beats the shit out of him.
Oh, that would be cool.
Great.
It gives Kip Sabian a nice rub and puts Sammy over as a douchebag.
I'll be disappointed now if that doesn't happen like that.
Same kind of.
Next match, we got Best Friends versus Angelico and Jack Evans.
I'm going to go Best Friends. Oh, sorry.
You're not Phil.
I'm not Phil.
Yeah.
AJ's going Best Friends. Phil, who you got?
My heart wants the Best Friends, but my mind says the other team with Jack Evans and Angelico.
Yeah, I'm going with Angelico and Jack Evans as well. I think those guys are just more of a high-flying style, someone that they're really going to want to build up in the United States scene. I think Best Friends sort of have a little bit more of a foothold in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
We got SCU versus Strong Hearts. AJ?
I actually have Strong Hearts on this one just because I think with SEMA going to be facing Kenny Omega at Fight for the Fallen, I think they're going to want to kind of put him over here.
I think very obviously it's going to be Strong Hearts because that's, the whole cross-promotional relationship kind of hinges on people being made to look good and, all eyes are on this event. So, if you lose, what's the point?
You guys have good points, but I'm going against the grain on this one as well. I'm going with SCU just because they're teasing SCU versus the Lucha Brothers in the future. So I think you need SCU to win there. But you guys got some good points, so that's a good toss-up match. In our next match, we have
Hikaru Shida, Ryo Abe, and Ryo Mizunami, and they're going to be wrestling Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaki, and Emi Sakura.
And I'm going with the Aja Kong team.
I am too. Oh, wait, actually, no. You know what? I'm going to go Hikaru Shida because I think those are wrestlers they're going to want to keep putting over. Aja Kong's obviously a little long in the tooth, and I feel like she's going to be there to kind of put more people over.
I'm going to go with Aja Kong, her team, because she is the only person of the 6 I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah, but that's my exact reason why I'm going to go the opposite.
Fair enough. And then we got the triple threat women's match, which is Britt Baker versus Nyla Rose versus Kylie Ray. AJ, who you got?
I think we're all going to say the same thing. Britt Baker, for sure. I want her to be the ace of the women's division, hands down.
Agreed. Britt Baker.
Yep. We're all in on Britt Baker, so hopefully we get that. I could see them going with trying to make Nyla Rose into a big force and promote her first, but I think just the way they've had Britt Baker around everything and the way they've had Adam Page around everything, those were the two people that they really wanted to push outside of the Elite. So, and then we have the big legend versus legend killer, Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes. AJ, who you got?
This is a tough one for me, but I'm just going to say Cody. Because I can see them doing this match a few times. I don't know if they will, but I'm just going to say Cody's going to take him out.
Oh, it's got to be Cody or else it'll be really weird.
If it's not Cody, there's going to be a rematch. That's where my head's at.
There's going to be some shenanigans, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I could see, what's his name? Darby Allin getting involved on behalf of Dustin Rhodes and sort of maybe even taking out MJF or something for Cody. Something like that. Just to lead up to Cody versus Darby Allin, they have to intertwine these two in some way, so there could be something of that nature, but I'm going to go with you guys and say that Cody's going to win.
Him. Why isn't he in the Battle Royal?
That's what I was going to say.
Maybe just for this.
Maybe he's Joey Ryan because Joey Ryan has the prior booking engagement. He's not going to be there, so maybe he's one of the four unannounced spots.
He's better than the 4 unannounced spots I announced earlier, so
it would
I'll
be
take
weird,
him.
Though. It's weird to not have this guy on the show at all, and then he's facing Cody at the next one. It's so I have to imagine that maybe he won't interfere in the match, but he's got to be on the thing
some
at some
capacity, yeah.
And then in our semi-main event of the night, we've got the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers for the AAA Tag Team Championship. Who do you guys think is going to be crowned the best tag team in the world?
I'm going to go Lucha Brothers. I think they're going to take the titles back.
I think there's absolutely no way the Young Bucks don't win on their own show in the first time.
I think that's why,
so
though.
Weird, though. Are we going to see Cody, the Bucks, and Omega
that's
all
my
win?
thinking. I don't think the Bucks are going to go over because of that.
I wouldn't say that.
I think that the Bucks are the ones that need to not go over the most, so maybe the Lucha Brothers go over, and it's more of a compelling story for the Young Bucks to tell on their show.
And the Bucks have already beat the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say the Bucks have already won, but if it's not under the AEW banner, does it really count?
I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing, though. They're going to have to then defend the AAA Tag Team Championships against someone else. So who is it going to be that they could possibly defend them against and lose? LAX actually, well, the original LAX they could, but the other LAX, one of the members just got injured. So
yeah.
But I don't know. I think that might be my only reason with going the Lucha Brothers route in this one is that they've got to get those belts back to AAA somehow, and that seems like the easiest route.
Yeah.
I could totally see them losing them to someone else in the future, but then how do you introduce an AEW Tag Team Championship soon? So, And then our main event, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho. AJ, who you going?
I'm going to go Jericho because I really think Adam Page is going to win the Rumble, and I don't think it makes much sense to do Omega and Page.
I also will agree that I think Jericho wins. He's the bigger, more established name. It just makes sense to have him in the main event picture. Omega is going to be wrestling Michael Nakazawa in a few months.
He's going to be wrestling CIMA too.
All right, I just think it just makes sense. More than Omega.
I think that it's going to be Kenny Omega just because they feel they can only have Omega lose so many times without hurting him. And on the first show, you don't want to hurt your biggest star in any way by having him lose, even if it's to Chris Jericho.
I'm not sure. I'm not 100%, it's going to be Jericho. I think it's going to be Jericho, but I don't know. It could be Kenny.
I would definitely like to see Jericho versus Adam Page, though.
Yeah, I think that's
I think that could be good.
I think that's what we're going to see.
That's a good way to establish Adam Page, too. But I also think that whoever wins this match is going to win the championship, and whoever wins the championship is going to go on a bit of a run. And I could definitely see them just wanting Omega to be that guy. Otherwise, what was the point in him not?
But I could see them wanting Adam Page to be that guy.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird because you see that they definitely want something big with Adam Page, but Kenny Omega is that guy.
He is.
So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, these are all just our predictions, and we just got a couple days away, guys. This is the Go Home Show of the All Elite Podcast.
Me too.
AJ, go ahead and plug your social media accounts.
You can follow me on Instagram at AJ the Fitzy, or you can follow me on Twitter at Big Match AJ.
And Phil, for our go home show, you want to plug your social media?
Absolutely not. None of you people are worthy in following me on social media.
I feel like everyone should just follow Phil to give him shit and
At Philip
harass him now.
Dimino.
You
Yeah,
should
yeah,
definitely
plug my
find him on
shit for
social
me.
media
Plug my
and
shit for
talk
me.
shit about all of his horrible opinions on pro wrestling and
My
things of the
opinions
like.
are fucking great.
And as always, you can follow us on the All Elite Podcast on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Faded Dollar Bill. I don't even know why the fuck that's my Twitter handle, but that is what it is.
There you go.
And until next week, until we finally see Double or Nothing, thanks for tuning in. See ya.
Bye.
Yo, pop a podium, check the rollies, it's the All Elite Podcast Show. Episode 13 of the All Elite Podcast, and I'm your host, Andrew Kadir. Fuck yeah, baby. Who's ready for Double or Nothing? Woo! It's the Go Home Show, baby. It's the Hawkins. Woo! Yeah.